afternoon to all of you. Welcome to the webinar for Cornerstone of Scientific Publication organized by Innovative Education and Scientific Research Foundation with publishing partner Innovative Publication. Topic covered today is getting published, a patient or name. It is and strengthening the spine of research literature review. It is presented by Dr. Ketki Kalini and plagiarism and peer review. That is presented by Dr. Lalit Gupta. Please check your audio video.
Hello, am I audible to everyone?
Yes, please check
Okay,
your
fine.
audio video. Actually, audio video setting before the webinar start. Um If you have any queries, just ask in the question box bottom when you are prompt. Topic covered in this webinar is getting published fashion or need, strengthening the spine of research literature review, plagiarism, peer review. This webinar is comprises in the four sessions. One is introduction, then presentation by the speaker, followed by a question answer session and the thanks group. If you have any question, ask them in the question box at the bottom of your screen. We will try to answer as many as questions we can. And if somehow we can't attempt your question, please email us. We will assist you later. So now we start. So the first session is introduction session, a short introduction to our key speaker today. Dr. Ketki P. Kalele Bokare is an assistant professor, Department of Oral and Maxillofacial Pathology and Microbiology, VYS Dental College and Hospital, Amravati, Maharashtra, India. He has completed his bachelor degree in dentistry and University from 2009. She did her master's and subject of oral and maxillofacial pathology from the same university, Pune, in 2014. She is a certified scientific writer of ICME. So it is the best. She will lights on the particular topic today. She is the director of Dentopath and the editor in chief of a journal medicine, oral pathology and radiology. She has more than 20 national and international publications, serves various journal editorial and reviewer boards, subject specialist book author, speaker for cancer conferences in Spain and UAE, and the director of Dantopay. So welcome, Dr. Kalini.
Thank
And,
you.
yeah, and our another speaker is Dr. Lalit Gupta. He is MBBS, DA, DNP, anesthesia from MNAMS. Is working as an associate professor in anesthesiology and intensive care department of Maulana Azad Medical College, Associated Hospital, New Delhi. He has more than 16 years of experience in the field of anesthesia and intensive care. He has authored more than 80 publications in esteemed national and international journals. He is a reviewer and associate editor and editor-in-chief for more than 60 national and international journals. He has authored chapters in many books for both national and international level. He has also authored of books Synopsis of Anesthesia and Drugs in Anesthesia in Critical Care. He is a founder member of Anesthesia and Critical Care Foundation Society. He is a member of advisory board of International Conferences Technology for Education AES and Training Business in collaboration with ARSEM Foundation. He is a guiding member of Committee Innovative Education and Scientific Research Foundation and a member of various societies. His research interest is in intensive care, remote area anesthesia management, difficulty airway, onco anesthesia and pain medicine, palliative care, etc. Now I would like to introduce you a bit about Innovative Education and Scientific Research Foundation. It is a non-profit organization and working with a goal of help research frequently to uh, disseminate their research globally in publishing and peer-reviewed journals. By presenting in conference, research talk, seminar, webinars, etc. The main vision is to promote scientific research globally and provide a platform to the community that needs to be improved the visibility of their work internationally. IESRF is an association of more than 3,000 members. For more information and details, please go to our website www.iesrf.org and become a member to get exclusive benefits. Now, IP Innovative Publication is a publication partner of IESRF and publisher in a medical, dental, pharmacy, nursing, and allied sciences. Innovative Publishing high quality peer review open access journals with different specialties. Here's some. Please go through www.ipinnovative.com for more information. Thank you. Now I would like to request Dr. Karlele to please take a lead and give a light on the topics today. Thank you.
So, hello all. Well, I hope that you all have a hearty high tea and are here with us today with a fresh mind, fresh aura, and a fresh heart also. Okay, so let us quickly begin our tour from this world of genius, or may I say the genius world, which is medical writing or research writing. Now, for most of you, those who have joined with us today for the webinar, I know that this topic, it may seem a bit boring or dull, and many of you might have joined just because, having more publications on your list is a mandatory thing to do. And that is why you all should know the tricks of the trade. But I assure you that the subject is not that boring, and I'll try to reintroduce you all to this medical and scientific writing from my own little perspective, because of which I have started taking interest in the subject. Okay. So many of the people who come across me, they usually ask that why so much of hype? I mean, publications. So is there really a need for all this, or it's just a hype created by the publication houses or the people from the academia to generate more revenue out of it? Or just because my colleague or my senior has more publications, so and so number, and I should also have one. So what it is? So to make myself really convincing, I have put or I have started the presentation with these two pictures, one of Lord Ganesha and the other of Sage Valmiki. They have written our immortals, Mahabharata and Ramayana. Now just imagine, had these lords not written and published these immortal treasure, we wouldn't have got Lord Ram and Lord Krishna. And then what would have happened to our culture? It wouldn't have survived so long, I guess. Hence, I personally believe that anything which is worth documentation, if it doesn't get documented at the right time in a right way, the fact eventually die. And publication writing or research, it is essential factor for any stream to remain alive. And especially in cases of medical health sciences, research is the oxygen of the field. Now, again, taking the example of these two great champs, Watson and Crick. Okay, they have given us our DNA model, as we all know. Just look at the length of the article. It's an original one, and it is just one or a page half article. And by the way, it was not an original article that was given. It was just a letter to editor which they have they have wrote. Now, had these piece of information remained in the drawers of these two fellows, we wouldn't have got our DNAs, okay, and we wouldn't have known the possible reason for our survival too. And now, why to go far? The recent example of COVID pandemic, it is just because of the untiring efforts of the millions of researchers and so many research studies that are being continuously put forward, that we are in a position to combat this health calamity. Okay, we know things to prevent the disease. We have reduced the mortality, we have increased the recovery rate, and now Russia currently announcing its first COVID vaccine. So I think it is just because of untiring efforts, and it is just because of the more and more research studies published that we are able to overcome it. Thirdly, I feel that writing down research and publishing it is extremely essential to avoid repetition. Now, as you all know, that research field has become a new oyster of the world, and scientists all over the globe are, running behind researchers and getting breakthroughs in their own possible ways. So now, if some scientist at some corner of the world, if he is putting his 5 years, writing and researching about a particular topic, and say, for example, even you are putting your 5 years and energy into the same topic, so what is the science stream gaining out of it? I think it is just waste of time and energy to explore the same thing by two different geniuses. Okay, it is similar to having 10-year backs, or say 15-year back, all the mobile companies, maybe Sony, maybe Nokia, Samsung, they were all producing similar kind of mobile phones. Here also, this picture what I have got, no, only the dashboard, color dashboard is different. Okay, so what were we gaining out of it? We were just remaining connected to each other. So it is just because of the continuous technological advancements that today we have got these two giants, of Apple and of Android. And maybe today we are standing on the most advanced era of any time. So I personally feel that writing down your research observation by any of the researchers, may the results of your study may be positive or they may be negative also. It is just not any other process in a research, but it is a mandatory obligation of every researcher, to quote their information. You never know. The information that you have written or published may impact some researchers, some research finding elsewhere. So it can serve as a really important information for the globe. Fourth thing I feel is to avoid mistakes. Now it many times it happens that a study or a research has tremendous potential, but just because of some flaw or some small mistake, that the researcher do, the study doesn't yield apt results. Okay, so what can be done? Those scientists can state that our study yield, negative results, and scientists elsewhere across the globe may take up the same topic and they may modify the mistake that the previous study has made, and maybe they can come to a breakthrough point. Now, this has happened with a cancer chemotherapeutic drug, which I would like to mention over here. Sodium valproate. It was previously, when it was studied in trials and all, it was doing more harm to the patient than the good. Okay, it was discarded. But the drug itself, it had great potential in curing cancer. So what other researchers did, they just modified the dose of sodium valproate and they again carried out this study. And today we are here, we are having answers to many cancers today. So it is all thanks to the researchers and the researches that are being put forward, I think. So because it is only, it's not possible for a particular group always to come to any breakthrough. It is only together that we can make great discoveries. Fifth, I find, is validation or upgradation. Now, every one of us know that validating the facts is so much important. Okay, so for example, the facts those put in 1980s or 1990s, or even the fact that has been put recently also doesn't remain valid after some time. To give the best example, I would like to say that, in dentistry, in the previous decades, the most popular tooth filling material that every dentist used to, use was silver amalgam alloy. Okay, every one of you might be aware, silver filling in the tooth. But, as research progressed, then it was known that the mercury content in the silver amalgam is causing so much of harm to the patient. Mercury toxicity and hazards, they were, increasingly harming the patient. So then what happened, we came up with better things like superb tooth compatible materials such as ceramics and composites. So, validation is extremely important for us to get better day by day. Okay. And recently only I was reading an interesting article, which I thought of putting it here when I'm explaining you all the validity part. That scientists in Imperial College of London, they have recently challenged the Einstein's theory of light. Einstein, who says that light travels with same speed throughout the universe. Okay. But these fellows are saying that light travels with a bit of more speed in the early universe. And it is only because of that the galaxies and the comets are formed in the universe. So even Einstein's theory requires validation. And sixth, I think, for what we all are here, probably, that is adding more jewels in your crown. Okay, so now this, I shouldn't be telling you more in detail. You all know enough about it, that for any damn thing, you require research and publication to your name. Okay, may it be your academic promotion, or even securing a job, for building your strong CVs, for getting those high numbers on your paychecks, may it be for conferences, may it be for scholarships, even travel allowances, mandatory criteria almost everywhere you go, in industria or academia. Okay, and of course for proving your own worth to across the globe, I think. So that is why research writing and publication writing has got so much of importance. Now, I think I was a bit convincing, maybe, for you all to start or take up some research projects. Or if I was not, the end slide of my why to publish, I think it might have caused enough motivation for you all to stay tuned for further slides of mine. So now my next topic is literature review. And for this particular thing, I have given the tag of strengthening the spine of research. Literature review is actually the spine of research project that you have taken. Now let's see how. First come first, what is literature review? So literal terms, or in literal terms, literature review is abhyas. It is the background study that you all do before taking up any project. Okay, detailed study of whatever topic you have chosen, the references that you have collected, etc. It is, just like building a house. Now, for example, if you have started building your own house, what will you do first? You will go and search for references of such people, those who have built their houses recently. Okay, and it is through them, that you will know what things are to be incorporated, what are the latest things going on, what is the best pricing for the concrete material that is required to build houses, from where to get the material, etc., etc. So without background search, I think no journey can reach its destination. So coming to purpose or advantages of research review, I think the first come first is knowledge of the work that is already done. Okay, the major breakthroughs. Now, for example, you have chosen a research topic, so you should first know that what are the major concepts or major facts that have already been done and published in that particular field. Okay. Secondly, I think to identify the gaps. Now, this identifying the gap is extremely important, because here lies your scope, or the scope of your study. Okay, you should know what things are done and what things are going on, and your article should provide something which has not been previously studied. That is how your article will provide originality, right? I'll take an example. For example, if you have taken up a topic that you want to study prognostic parameters of oral cancer, mostly all the researchers they study are the prognostic markers for blood vessel, like VEGF or EGFR, etc. Now, what you can do is you can study a prognostic marker for adipocytes, say leptin. So this is where you will contribute something original, and only those studies are considered for a better publication also, and for better it is better for the stream also to have original articles. Okay. Thirdly, I feel to know the people. I mean, networking is extremely important in any field. Okay. Now, those who already are on research it will agree with me, that you should know, if you know people who are carrying out parallel studies on similar topic as yours, it is great to collaborate on a project, because then that is how you will know, more about the project, or you will know the sources of funding, or you may have exchange of information, which is very important. So to know people in the same field, to connect with them is always better to overall blossom our science field. Okay. Then I feel to know major breakthroughs in the field, as we have already discussed, that if you know major things or major discoveries that have taken place previously on that particular topic, you always can cite those things and make your article really valid, important and interesting also. Okay. Fifth, I think to know methodologies and technologies. Now, as we have discussed, that many a times that your research question is correct, you have enough things to study, and also everything is correct, but just it is that results are not coming up. Okay. Or you are finding it extremely difficult to get to the conclusion or result. So what you can do, go back to your research, and you can see what new method can be incorporated, or what technologies are there today, to study something. And newer technologies are making research really easy. So this is very helpful in terms of modifying your methods and knowing, more technologies to be incorporated. Then, of course, increasing authenticity. We all know that more number of references in your study, more is the authenticity of your study. Whenever you, give or submit your article for publication also to a good publication house, they first see what references you have. Okay. Like as a member of peer reviewer board, we do see that, what is how are your references, and how much latest studies have you cited, etc. So that is always better to have good amount of references for your article. And then to build your expertise, studying everything in detail about that research project will of course give you great expertise, and then you can come up with many better researches on the related topic, and you will be really contributing something substantial to the field. Okay. Now this slide, I find it really good and helpful, because this slide, when I was a PG student, I had just started doing researches. Nobody told me this. These things I have gathered just by my little experience, whatever I have gained. Okay, so I would love to share these things with that. Now we have ample amount of literature. Okay, we have decided our research, we have framed our research question, and we have also done a good research search, literature search. Now what? So many millions and thousands of things are available. We cannot review each and every article, isn't it? It's not humanly possible to read so much. So how to do an ideal review? I think that reviewing an article is like, looking at a beautiful painting. Okay, like when you look at a beautiful painting, what you first look at are the major characters in the painting. Okay, influenced by which the painter has drawn the painting. Okay, so those are the major concepts. Like any article, if we take up in hand, we see that see about its research question, its hypothesis, aim, or aims. Then we directly jump to what were the results, and what was the conclusion. Okay, So those are the major concepts that we usually see when we hold an article in hand. But having said that, a painting is not complete without the background shades of colors, you know, the sceneries that is being portrayed, or the trees that are being drawn. So similar to that, major concepts, after that you also have to, you know, take few bites of the available information that is present in that article. Okay, so you should be able to take snapshots of all of the information. Thirdly, I think relationship. Your research, you know, should be related to the previous researches, or it more accurately, I'll say it should be in flow with whatever researches have been going on in that topic. That will make your research study valid or relevant to the present scenario. Okay, if you publish something which is, you know, a bit off sync, or if it is not an established fact anywhere, so it may feel to be out of the flow to the present audience. But of course it does happen with the original studies wherein you are the copyright holder, etc. That we will speak in another webinar sometime. But majority of the time you have to establish a proper sane relationship with the previous studies. Okay, next, I think extraction. Here is the skill of a researcher, what I feel. Okay, you have a pool of articles with you, so you should be able to extract valuable information from all the articles that are present with you. That is your skill. Okay, and extraction of that whole valuable lot of information will make your article. Okay, so it is just like, you know, squeezing the fragrances from all the different petals and squeezing it together to form a beautiful perfume, is what squeezing of information from various articles is. Okay, and presenting that information in a right way in your research paper is what makes an ordinary article a star article. Okay, now, having said that, what a question will you know, arise in your mind, that from where to get all the research material. All of we know that these are the potential sources of having you know, the research material. Personally, I prefer published articles in good index journals, and secondly, at the most, I prefer books. Okay, I don't prefer these three things, you know, personally a lot. And especially when it comes to online portals, I find that it is a bit dicey in, you know, having authenticity, because today everyone is speaking something about everything. That person may be a professional, may not be a professional, so it is a bit you know, it is bit authenticity is at question mark. But yes, if you are searching about a drug or a clinical trial, we always have FDI, government sites, etc., where you can refer. So where to search again? Thankfully today we have you know, answers to all these questions, because today lot many databases are evolving. Okay, and I think I have put these databases here because, you know, research has been done on this also. In that research it was stated that, you know, PubMed, Google Scholar, ResearchGate and Scopus are the most popular databases from where you can get your articles. Okay, but I would like to recommend these databases also, like Web of Science, Science Direct, DOAJ. Okay, even these databases are really good databases, and they are free also. Okay, Science Direct being Elsevier's database, we will find lot of information and lot many literature for your studies. But these are not much explored right now. Even I personally have not explored this zone a lot. Okay, what I personally also refer are the PubMed and the Google Scholar, like you people do. And but Google Scholar, again, I find that, you know, it is a bit vague database or vague search. Everything will be included on your research topic, may it be peer reviewed or not, you know. So I think 100% authenticity, 100% accuracy still lies with PubMed. So today in my presentation, we'll be talking basic search on PubMed. Okay. after where to search, after we know where we have to go, what will serve as our library to collect all the research material, the next question to pop up is how to search. And this slide and presentation are especially for the beginners or the PG students, okay, because their guide gives them deadlines and they are not getting enough material to incorporate, to write their literature review, etc. And it is, all in all, it becomes a messy process when you don't know the protocol, okay. It is really frustrating, and that is why how to search is, I think it is again a skill, okay. First come first, I would like to say that before beginning anything or any research search, you read your parent article thoroughly. Okay, now what is parent article? Literally our mother article it is. It is the main article from which we have chosen the research, okay, or it is the article that is given to you by your mentor or guide, okay, from which and in a way it will remain your friend, suffer and guide throughout your research journey. Even on your final day of thesis presentation, you will have to go back and refer your parent article. So it will remain with you throughout your life, I would like to say. Okay, so choose your parent article wisely, read it thoroughly. When I say choose wisely, that means your parent article should preferably be from a PubMed index journal, and it should have, the authors of that article should they should really be experienced ones, okay. And also I think a good publication house is also required, right? Then secondly, I feel that after, why to read parent article thoroughly is because you are going to gather 50% of your ready-made information from the cross references of that article. So if that article is well cited, or if that article is of well-known authors doing great research, it is having PubMed indexation, then its cross references would also be really helpful, okay. And then you don't have to bang your head against your walls. Many a times your cross references will answer many of your questions, okay. Now let's see how. For example, I've taken, this is my original research, okay, wherein what I have studied is retrospective analysis of discrepancies in clinical and histopathological diagnosis of head and neck lesions, okay. So I have done this research, and now I have looked for diagnostic disagreements or discrepancies. Now, for example, you have taken a research topic. You cannot take the same research topic, okay, because originality will not be there. So what you can study is, you can study the concordance or the similarity in diagnosis of head and neck lesions. So what you can do, you can take this as a parent article. You can directly go in cross references, where you can find, now this is the first reference is itself about the concordance between the clinical and histopathological diagnosis. This cross references you will know from the some of the sentences that I have written. I have cited the reference number, and then you can go to the reference section and get those. So this is how you can get your good yield of articles. Next, extremely important point before beginning your search is framing the keywords. Okay, what are keywords? Keywords, as the name themselves implicate, those are the key of opening the lock of research. Okay, the big, big treasure box. Okay, to open that big treasure box of literature, you need a very good key. So those are keywords. Now, in simple language, I would like to say the keywords are those that you are going to type on your search window. Okay. Index words like index finger to point out your research accurately. Okay. And I find that framing keywords is not that difficult, and you shouldn't have many keywords with you. For any research study, at the max 4 keywords I find are enough, because more the keywords, more will be your results, and less will be the specificity in your results. These keywords are going to define what searches will appear to you in your search. Okay. Now let us see how. Firstly, I would like to tell you the steps of framing keyword, because once you have right number and right set of keywords, your literature search is just it is just really easy. So for that, First, you have to squeeze the research title, not the paper. You have to study this, you have to squeeze the research title. Then, how will you squeeze the research title? You will have to remove all the unwanted words from the title. For example, if I need to do, keyword extraction from my title, how will I do it? What is my title? So this is a big title. Okay, so here what are important words? Important words are discrepancies, clinical and histopathological diagnosis, and head and neck lesions. These are important words which I have extracted from whole title. Okay, then however have I done that? I have removed the unwanted word. For example, retrospective analysis is unwanted, off is unwanted, between, and all these special characters are to be removed. Okay, then you will get exact and accurate words which define your research. Okay, read and understand the final words, because until and unless you are clear in your mind that what articles do you want based on what word, PubMed will not understand and it will not give you specific and accurate result. Okay, so I have understood very well that I want to know about discrepancies in clinical and histopathological diagnosis of head and neck lesions. I want to know the disagreements, the disagreement rate. Okay, and then finally, I would say that look for synonyms. Now, discrepancies is a word which is not usually used. Okay, so what you can do is, if discrepancies are giving you, and it has happened to me in PubMed, when I typed discrepancies, I think hardly 10 or 15 articles had appeared. Then what I did, I went and I looked for the synonym of this word. Like for discrepancies, you can use disagreements. Okay, then for head and neck lesions, you can you use head and neck pathologies instead of lesion. And these, after finding these synonyms, which are much commoner than what you have used, again, you will get good amount of results with them. Keywords you can also find, if you want a broader search and you want more articles to come, so you can go to the keyword section of the original parent article where authors have quoted certain keywords, and you can use these to type for more results. Okay, because these keywords are again ready-made, framed based on their experiences of the search. Then now we will begin our basic search through PubMed. Okay, you have already referred your parent article well. You know in your mind that what you are going to search. Okay, what results are you expecting out of it? You have framed your keywords, and now you are all set for beginning your search. So to begin our search, now I have taken a simple example. Okay, that suppose, for example, you want to know incidence of diabetes mellitus in children with obesity. Okay, this is what you want to know. Okay, so what you have to do, you have to again squeeze the research question. Are three keywords: obesity, diabetes, children. Actually here, if I didn't use and, then also it was okay. Okay, obesity, diabetes, and children, these are your three keywords. You just type those keywords and then you will get results. Now for example, here we have got so many results. Okay, there are certain filters, timeline, etc., which I have explained in the video that I have posted. So we will see how do they work. So to just give you a short background about the filters, I think a super feature of PubMed it is, to be more specific in your search, and it will also save your time. For example, you have typed obesity, diabetes, children. So what filters? There are text availability filter, there is article attribute, article type. That means what kind of articles do you want on this topic? Do you want only the abstract of the articles? Do you want a full text, as those are free, or full text? What do you want? If you click on one of these filters, similar results will appear. Article attribute, that means associated data. So all the data associated with this topic will appear. Okay, it won't be specific although, but everything that is available on PubMed regarding these three terms will be there with you. Article type, of course, very easy to understand. What kind of article do you want will be there. And this timeline filter is what actually all these graphs that it will tell you, for example, obesity, diabetes in children. The articles are there since 1941. Okay, articles are being produced on this particular topic since 1941 till 2020. For example, you want only the articles those are published in 2017. So you will have to click on this particular graph, and then you will get articles those are published only in 2017. So this is that specific as it can be. Okay. Now just have a look at the video that I have posted. I think it will solve majority of the questions. Okay.
Yeah, ma'am, there is a problem in the video, I guess. Voice is not clear, sound is not clear. Yeah, yeah. Can you, yeah, can you please explain?
Okay, actually here it is perfectly fine. Okay, I am able to hear it. Okay, I'll explain. No problem.
Yeah,
Yeah. That is why I have also shared photographs, right? So, firstly, we will go on Google, okay, Google search engine. There we will type for PubMed. Then, once we type PubMed, the first come first option for PubMed, we'll have to click, and then we will open the PubMed portal, okay. Now, here we have taken example already. You type for the keywords that you want, like obesity, children, and diabetes. Once, sorry for my spelling mistake, okay. So once you have written diabetes mellitus children obesity, again all these search articles will come. About 12,047 results are there on the same topic. As you scroll down, you will get article informations also. Like for example, this one is a free article. At first, the problem with PubMed was that PubMed was not giving so much of free articles, okay. But now, after the advents of PMC, almost 35% of the articles on PubMed are free. So that is a boon for all of us as researchers, okay. So you will get some background also of this article. You will get the type of article, it is free, early available or not, etc. Okay. So you have to just scroll and see. Then I have already discussed about the timeline. As I told you that it shows that from when the articles are being produced till date. So whatever year you desire to, you can just click. Okay. Again about the filters. These filters, they are similar to the filters that you see on Flipkart and Snapdeal. If you are shopping for your clothes, for example, what you do is you pre-decided search it is, okay, you want kurta, you want cotton material, you want specific brand, and then you will get specific results. Similar is the search with PubMed. You want free full text study articles on this particular topic. So you first pre-decided, or you first decided, sorry, you just click over the filters and you will get specific results. Then article type, this is very useful because initially it used to happen that I like an article from its heading. When I open it, it was a book article. So nothing wrong with book article, but it is a bit complicated to cite. Hence you can just pre-decide that you want review, clinical trial, whatever. So that depends upon your choice. Then this is publication date. Now this is how this is different from timeline, because here you will get articles that are published in last 5 years, last 10 years, and last year just. Okay, timeline gives you a variety of range from first year of the article till date. Okay, so yes, Nikita ma'am. So more the recent articles you have in your study, more authentic is your study. So you can click that you just want articles. Those are those are born just 5 years back. Okay, so that is how you can again specify your result. Then we have a feature of additional filters here. These filters are, especially now these are the usual filters that every one of us use. Now additional filter, these are to know that whether you want only female studies or data from male and female. So like firstly it is species. Once you click on the additional filters, you will get this chart. Okay, for example, species. You only want human and you don't want animal studies. So this will be decided here. Language, right from Vietnamese to English, every language of article, every language articles are present. So you have to again go for language filter if at all you need. Again, as I told you, gender specificity, some studies require only females. So there you can again click on females and get specific results. Journal type, if you want in children, for example, our study requires obesity in children. So you can specify the age, okay, what age group have you included in your study, and you will get results of that particular age group only. So I think if you know these filters really well, it will save a lot of your time and energy on PubMed, okay. Next option, which is a wonder I feel, is create alert. Okay, now this create alert option will give you the information of the most recent post about your research. For example, if I have my research presentation tomorrow, and if some scientist somewhere have posted an article today at say 12 p.m. in the night, since then also you will have an alert, okay, so that you can impress your thesis presenters that you have the latest information. The jokes apart, create alert will notify you regarding the most recent article on your topic.
Hello.
So I think this is it. Now the next option that I would like to tell you all is about Boolean operators. Knowing and having a thorough knowledge about these Boolean operators is also extremely important when you go for search. Boolean operators are special characters that you use again to specify your search, and those are three: that the and, or, and not. Okay. For example, if you want the results for obesity, diabetic children, by using and, so that you will get the search results will incorporate both obesity and diabetes. Okay, here you will get articles based on obesity and diabetes. Okay, this is again a video. I guess I'll explain without a delay. Now I have taken, to explain Boolean characters, I have taken an example of diarrhea, vomiting in infants on formula milk. Okay. So now I want to know the incidence of diarrhea and vomiting in infants on formula milk. So what will I do? I will use the Boolean character of and. Okay. Diarrhea and vomiting. So I will get results based on both, I mean, which will incorporate both diarrhea as well as vomiting in infants. So this is a very specific method when you are using and. If I use, example, I have used or diarrhea or vomiting in infants. So what my study or my results will be a bit vague. They will have both as well as vomiting in infants. So all these terms and on formula milk will appear. Okay, so it will be a bit vague search, but then if you want to expand the amount of literature that you want to cite, you can use this Boolean character of or. Then if you want only diarrhea, if not, you want to know just the incidence of diarrhea in infants on formula milk and not vomiting, you have to use this Boolean character of not. Okay. So when you use this Boolean character, you will only get results on diarrhea, which is induced by formula milk in infants. Okay. So this is regarding the Boolean characters. Next character is a wildcard. Wildcard is also known as asterisk in the search. Okay, if you are using asterisk before any term, so that indicates that that term will be available to you in its every form. For example, if I'm using prevent and asterisk, okay, I want to know how to prevent diarrhea and vomiting in infants. I have put forth an asterisk mark before prevent diarrhea. So I will get prevent word in its adjective form, in its adverb form, everywhere, like prevention, preventing, etc. So this will again expand your search items based on the wildcard entry. Okay. Next, I think I would like to shed a light on the bodements. Bodements are nothing but the brackets that you incorporate. Okay, so this when a particular term is being put into the brackets, so PubMed will ignore those terms. For example, if you want to know oral diseases that are associated with HIV and tuberculosis, you got your set of articles. Now you just want oral diseases association with HIV, and then tuberculosis is your second option. So what will you get is oral diseases and HIV, and if you put tuberculosis, HIV in bracket and oral tuberculosis, you will diseases associated with tuberculosis. So that is bodements for you all. So this is how we proceed the basic search on PubMed. Okay, this is the roadmap of the search on PubMed, which will lead you to your ultimate destination. Now there are many things in PubMed, that cannot be compiled in one lecture itself. Otherwise, it will be really boring and complicated for you all to understand. The advanced search part of PubMed, the mesh terminologies, it is all about, if you have a patent article or a copyright article wherein very limited amount of literature is there with you. So at that point, how will you go for your literature search? And all this and much more, I think we will come in future webinars. We'll come up with future webinars over that. For today, I think person can master these things, eventually. Everything cannot be incorporated and done in one webinar. Okay, so we will come up with this. If few attempts fail of doing literature search, you can still try using different keywords. As I told you, you can modify your keywords, you can use synonyms for your keywords, and then you can also use the different databases that I have shown in the previous slides. There are, believe me, there is n number of literature available for you all. And once you get your desired amount of information, sky is the limit. Just flow with the literature, just flow in this fantasy world of this research. Okay. I really feel that researches should be backed up with a proper literature review. Otherwise, if you have insufficient literature with you, your research will not stand anywhere. Okay, it will neither contribute anything to your field, neither it will be published in a good journal. It will just be a waste of time and energy and other resources of yours. Okay, because I find I have would love to share this story with you all. That what an insufficient study of literature can do. We all know that all the countries maybe around the world today, they are trying for development of artificial womb and cloned artificial human being with all the possible qualities, whatever we desire, but none of us are coming up really with great results. But in India, in around 5000 BC only, our great wise sages, they have already written down a recipe of cloning people, and we have 100 warrior clones of Kauravas we had, and Gandhari had 100 artificial wombs. So already the recipe for so many things is already written in our ancient scriptures and all. It is just that we are not reviewing our literature properly. Hence, India still today is a developing nation when it comes to medicine, I guess. And that is why my take home message for you all today is, publishing your valuable work with proper research background is the only way of your survival and the survival of your stream that you are in. Okay. It is extremely important for any organization, institution, or even country to develop. Only way of progress, I think. And this is again evident from the lessons in the history. That loss of Kohinoor from India didn't cause that much of damage to India, like burning of our ancient scriptures and ancient knowledge from the Nalanda University had done to our country. So I think research is more than any monetary treasure for any country. So thank you all for the patient listening. Thank you IESRF for giving me an opportunity to speak and put my thoughts. I just hope I have at least motivated 5% of you all to come up with good research publications. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your knowledge about the important topic in research publication. Now, I would like to request Dr. Lalit Gupta to please become and put a light on the topics peer review and plagiarism, please. Thank you. Sir, you are muted. Bolo.
So good afternoon, everyone. After such an extensive talk, Dr. Ketki and a beautiful presentation of how to research a material on the web and how to present it, the next two steps, which are very important in the medical literature, is how to get them published. Starts when an article is sent to a publication house, how the article is reviewed, and what are the various things which are done so that the article is accepted and not rejected. So going by this, we would like to discuss, like, as there is a pressure on the researcher to publish and publish, because NCI wants publications, the whole of the bodies want publications. Similarly, there is a peer pressure on the reviewers to find the best particle which could be published and to segregate the others so that there is scope of improvements and they can be rectified soon. Coming to the definitions, what is the what is the peer review? Okay, historically, if I am say peer review is the process of subjecting an author's scholarly work, research or ideas to the scrutiny of others who are expert in the same field. That is, it is the process of review by the others who have the professionalism in their field, and they know what and when what to expect with the publication. And while the peer reviewed journals are those journals which are academically and scientifically periodically, they go by the experts who are not the part of the editorial staff. That is, there's a team of the reviewers who are not a part of the editorial staff, but they are the well proficient in their field. So coming to the history, the historically the peer review goes back to the 17th century, when the acquisition of the Holy Roman and Catholic churches was examined for any hints of the heresy. And the very first recorded academic peer review process was at the Royal Society in 1965, where the Medical Essay and Observation, the first publication house, which published the peer review procedure in 1731. So coming to next, how it works. Okay, so just to show you, there is a flow chart of that. There are the type of the peer reviews before that. Okay, when articles is come to the editorial house, it first goes to the editor. The editor is the person who decides where and whom to send. Then he sends it to the other peer reviewers. The peer reviewer can be a single person or many persons, from where they give their recommendation to the editor. The editor is the main persons who may either find after getting the reviews from the reviewers, either reject it or return it for the some corrections as is advised by the other reviewers, or accept it for the publication. Since it is an outgoing process, this is always seen as a continuous process, because from the very beginning of the manuscript sent to the manuscript return or accept, it is a long process. So what are the types of the peer reviews? The peer reviewers are of two types, internal or external. While the internal review is done by the editorial staff that I told you in the beginning, where the article is either accepted or rejected, or an external review, which is by the expert in the field. It could be blind versus open. In the blind review, the manuscript are sent outside the journals, and the open peer review, the disclose the identity is often, and often authors are encouraged to suggest their possible review, which they are must they know, or they may or may not be impartial to them. So what are the problems with the peer review? See, there is a history attached with it. You will not believe that the famous papers that were published but did not never get peer reviewed, like the Albert Einstein's Annus Mirabilis in 1905, which was only reviewed by the editor, and there was no peer reviewer at that time. While in the weak and electromagnetic interactions in 1968, which was never peer reviewed but get the Nobel Prize. Similarly, there was a famous paper that was published and passed that later proved to be fraudulent by the Ignor and Greek Bagdonover in 1999 and 2002. They published papers. However, it was purely peer reviewed by many peer reviewers, and it was found to be false. And there you will not believe that their famous paper, which got rejected initially by the peer reviewers, but later on gone to be the masterpiece in the field of the biochemistry, the Krebs cycles. Yeah, I am saying Krebs cycle. It was recognized the major by Nobel Prize in 1953, initially discarded by the reviewers. So this is the main process which may or may not get accepted. So what are the responsibilities of the peer reviewer? While filtering out the incorrect, inadequate, and fraudulent work, improving the accuracy, helping journals to deal with the high volumes, and helping journal deal with the multiple publications. What they are the some few non-responsibilities of peer review. They cannot decide whether the paper should be accepted or not. It is the role of the editor. They improve the spelling and grammar. It is the role of the copy editor. They improve the study design. It is the role of the author. The paper is passed back to the author, and sometimes the paper is retrieved after being accepted, but it is not allowed until the paper is officially in the print. So did the author follow the instructions of the journals? What is the first thing that the author or reviewer see? Is the article format is correct, structured abstract, correct article format, like the abstract, introduction, methods, result, discussion, conclusion, and reference all are in the place. And if they are in the place, then are all the references in the correct format, like the API format or whatever the format which is followed in the journal. Okay. At the same time, there are the technical aspects that are to be taken care of, like research structure, correctly described and performed. Statistical analysis is done, correct analysis, method used, what is the p-value, and how the sample size is taken. And last but not the least is the tables and figures. Are the data consistent with the body of the paper? Yes. Do the number and the data match? Yes. Are the reference matches with the quoted in the text? If they are not matching, the paper may be rejected. So what are the practicalities of the peer reviews? Means what are the various filters, what are the publication cycle, what are the responsibilities, and what are the various tips we should be followed. First, question before starting a review, expertise. The peer reviewer always asks himself or herself, am I the expert person? And do I have the complete knowledge about this? Is there any conflict of interest? Maybe I am associated with the similar type of research and I may get the data from this peer. So potential conflict of interest is always to be declared. And am I able to meet the deadline? If I am so much busy that I am not able to review and the paper keep pending with me, it always decreases the paper significance. So there are the few questions which should be while completing the review kept in the mind. Does the review address the relevance of the topic to the readers? He always thinks, reviewer always say, is it relevant? Is the manuscript important and novelty? And it adds to the existing knowledge. If not, the paper may be rejected. Does the reviewer address the validity of the research, strength, weakness? Are all these things are measured? If there is something missing and inaccurate information, okay. And what are the interpretation of the result and the conclusion? And they match to the aims and the primary objective of the research? If not, then the paper may be rejected. Does the reviewer offer suggestions for the improvement? Yes. A reviewer must always offer some suggestions for the benefit of the author as well as for the publication. And if, as I told you, the potential conflict of interest should be declared beforehand. So, just I told you, confidentiality is critical because not only the paper but also the outcome and content of the review are confidential. So, lapse in the confidentiality undermine the review process, betray the trust of the authors and the editors, and can create a serious problem for everyone involved in the reviews. You cannot use the information in the paper in your own research and cite it as your own publication. There have been instances where the paper was rejected by the many reviewers and later on the paper with a written modification was published. And once it came to the light, the author of the reviewer, both, they were banned for a particular time from the medical literature. So if the paper has serious flaws, what should be done? It should be challenged. The peer review process is verified by the scientists, the reviewers, and the public as the scientific stamp of approval. And the things that are they are things the paper was presenting facts are authenticated already by the reviewer. The reviewer must remember that it is unethical to allow a badly flawed paper to pass unchallenged in the peer review system. And the reviewer therefore has an ethical obligation to support work of high quality while appropriately challenging the flawed papers. So what are the possible outcomes of the review process? So either the peer reviewer will accept without revision. If rare occasion the paper is too good that it cannot be rejected and it has no flaw, so it is accepted straightforward. It is accepted with a minor revision. Yes, it is most of the time it happens. Revised with a major change, usually with additional experiments required, usually additional explanation, the change in the methodology, change in the written parameters, or there are some flaws with the presentation and the references. Straightforward reject with encouragement to submit after extensive revision and addition of new data, which is usually done, and reject, submit to the another journal where paper is not suitable for that journal, because sometimes it happens that it is a bad paper, reviewer can think. But if it is quoting the reference citation of the reviewer itself, should he reject or should he accept the paper? It is a very tricky question. But if the paper doesn't meet the requirement of the journal, it should be rejected and should be sent to the other journal to decrease the conflict of interest. So writing the final review report, it must be clear, concise, accurate. Although the primary purpose is to advise the editor, comments of the authors, the project by the inclusion of additional data experiment should be mentioned. Comment to the author may be very brief, especially in case of excellent, very well prepared paper. As I told you, it happens very rarely. Or it may be extensive if the reviewer feels the paper has valuable observation, but requires further revision to present the finding effectively. So in such a case, what happens with the editor? Now editor is confused. What happens when the referee disagrees? One referee is saying yes, accept it, other is saying no, reject it. The editor must decide. Option to use more additional reviewer, yeah, it can be in the tiebreaker, as I told you. Invite author to reply the referee's criticism and if send review back to the reviewers and find if he can accept or reject. Editor may further communication back and forth between authors and referee. Usually, however, the editor will reject the paper if there is a single negative review, unless there is a specific reason not to do so. Like the editor himself or herself think that a paper is a very good and should be accepted. So, just giving the overview of a peer review system. First coming, the filter comes with the author. He must decide where to submit the paper. It is index journal, non-index journal, it is peer reviewed, non-peer reviewed, paid or free, and what is the if it is MCA recognized or not MCA recognized. Then the paper goes to the editorial. Editorial then thinks article appraisal. It should be rejected straightforward or should be sent to the peer reviewer. Now peer reviewer will decide. Now the actual work starts. The review should be either in the quantitative, where the score is given 1 to 10 to the paper, where 10 means the exceptionally good paper, while 1 should be rejected. So on this way, either accept, revise or reject and then publish the article, or he gives a qualitative grade, like the paper is the excellent quality, however it should be accepted after the few changes, and once the changes are done, the paper is accepted, or he suggests that paper is not fit for the journal and should be sent somewhere else. So if the peer review system is so effective, then what are the various problems with the peer review? Yes, for authors, it is very unfair, sometimes biased, has no gold standard, often provide qualitative comments only, not quantitative. And for the journals, it causes necessary delay in publication because sometimes the reviewers are very busy. It is very expensive for them because the time period the data is collected with them and is kept with them. So it takes a much time. It does not detect fraud, duplicate publication because it is the primarily a responsibility of the author to send the genuine publications. So there should be some bias. The reviewer should remember that they are setting the standard of behavior and collegiality for their field as well as the standard of the science. So if they are unknown and friend, there are high chances the paper will accept. But if the reviewers are enemies to the author, or there are some unknown factors, like they think this type of work is already done, or they are doing the same work and they don't want the work to be published beforehand, they may reject the paper. So what makes a good reviewer? A reviewer less than 48 years, because he is very energetic, he is always available, he is from the top academic institution, he is well known to the editor choosing the reviewer, and blinded to the identity of the manuscript authors. This has been already discussed that when the probability of the good reviews 87% in a study done by Evans et al. They found when all the 4 criteria are met, the good reviews 87% versus the 7% when the other criteria is not met. So tips for the reviewers: be courteous. Your role is only advising, not deciding. Try to suggest improvement no matter what the outcome may be. Maintain confidentiality. Do not review work for those who you know well. Means keep your mind clear from those. Completely revise promptly, typically within 4 weeks. Yes, it is maximum 1 month is the maximum time means the review should be completed, and the reviewer should spend at least 1 hour on the review to find out the shortcomings, to discuss with the author what can be done best for the paper, and search for the related work. If it has been done, it should be suggested to the author, and the review should be right as you would like to written the paper in your own language. So suggestion for better peer: make a peer review part of the training with the supervision from the senior reviewers. Hide the identity of the authors. Peer review with a minimum of 3 reviewers. Have a quantitative and qualitative element. Allow anyone to comment while the article is online only. Require reviewers to disclose absence of bias. Show the author the full review on request, and publish the peer review for every paper, whether it is accepted or rejected online. Now, there is some peer review quick guidelines for the initial paper as well as for the author, so that while they are sending the review, they should know what are the various fields where the mistakes are made. And like there the citation, how to cite it, what is the sample site, confidentiality, impartiality, all these points have been mentioned, and they should be taken one by one to say the paper cannot be rejected because of these following points. As well, the reviewer should know these points where the author usually makes the mistakes. And for the if someone wants to read about the peer review further, Nature has published a very beautiful article on it, where his debate has been published, where the what should be the reviewer between and how it should be done, peer-to-peer review blog. And there are some pinch of humor also in the reviewer, which is from the author's letters, which they give in response to their letters, which from the comments reviewer sent to them. Like the highlighted of the work is only 2 points. Therefore, it is for the rapid communication because it is having 2 points, so it should be accepted. So on conflict of interest, in view of the content of the paper, some scientists may have some conflict of interest as they fail to see the new facts. Yes, maybe the possibility. On undesirable referees, Don't send the manuscript to those referees who pretend to understand our work. I had submitted my work to another journal where people also did not really like it. And the paper is written in unacceptable for the publication, but I sincerely hope that the authors can rewrite the manuscript so that the mortals can read and understand. And once the author send a back comment to the refer, my recommendation is do not resuscitate. Let my paper die because I do not want your recommendation to be followed for my paper. So this was a pinch of humor. And the second important thing while sending a paper to a review is the plagiarism. Plagiarism is now a very hot topic, and it is the most neglected part because every time paper is rejected, the very first thing is seen is the plagiarism. Coming about of the plagiarism, plagiarism is like a theft. Wow, we cannot build our dreams on the suspicious mind because we can only think of what we can think of. We can only convert our dreams into reality, not the other one dreams. So what is plagiarism? It is the act of presenting the work of another authors as your own. If you use the work of someone else and either knowing or inadvertently claim it as your own, you are committing an act of plagiarism. In simple words, plagiarism is the chori of the medical literature. So what forms can plagiarism take? Word for word copying from the another works without properly acknowledging the source of information, paraphrasing the work of another author without proper acknowledgement, failing to properly cite your source even if the failure is unintentional, attributing information to a source from which it did not come, submitting material created by another under your name, submitting material created by yourself and others, but claiming the work entirely as your own. So apart from this, there are few also things which should be seen as a plagiarism, but are always neglected by the author, like buying or stealing or borrowing a paper from someone else, hiring someone to write your paper, which is very common nowadays. And there are some ads even in the newspaper where you can get your paper published by others. They can write for you. It comes into the plagiarism because it is not your original source, not original ideas. Using the source too closely when paraphrasing and copying from another source without citation on purpose or by accident. That is either it is deliberate or it is accidental. So you are just taking the ideas from others' mind to publish your paper by on their ideas. So as I just told you, plagiarism was of two types: intentional, unintentional. Intentional means you are copying a friend's work, buying or borrowing papers, cutting and pasting, media borrowing, web publishing without permission, and using image without acknowledgement. While unintentional, careless paraphrasing, poor documentation, quoting excessively your work, even at least your work or your citations or someone else, but not giving the proper citation, and failure to use your own voice. What are the excuses which are given by the author for plagiarism? Oh, not enough time to complete the assignment because I'm very busy. I'm doing a lot of things, a lot of papers are with me, I cannot do. I am very lazy to find the newer ideas. Everyone does it, so what's the big deal if I am doing it? The assignment was boring, so I had to take the help from the others article. I don't have the fundamental research skills. Yeah, okay, it is a genuine reason. Careless research method means you are not able to find the exact result, but you want to publish your paper, so you take the other one ideas. They fear that own academic abilities are not adequate leading to seek a superior product. And it's okay if I don't get caught, which is the usual perception, because most of the time in the previously, plagiarism was not crime, but nowadays there are strict guidelines for this. So what are the strategies to avoid plagiarism? Yeah, these are very important. Quoting and citation of your articles, your lines, paraphrasing, summarizing, and don't cut and paste from a website or retype something from a print source. How? So if I say, I ask a question simply to my student, do I have to cite everything? My students say, yes, sir, but accept the common knowledge. Then what is the common knowledge? Common knowledge needs no documentation. Then what is this? This is the information that is easily observed. Like Russia has made the first COVID-19 vaccine in the world. Okay, it is an observation, but not a detailed explanation. So if it is a fact, it is need not to be cited. Commonly reported facts like Vasco da Gama discovered India. Yeah, it's a commonly reported. No one asks about the story and doesn't ask for the details, so it can be cited. And common saying like proverbs, knowledge, power, look before you leave. These are common proverbs which is in the ancient times are we are using. So it does not need to be cited, but be sure what you are really using is a common knowledge. Paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is just the binding of the other ideas with your, means you are using the other ideas in your ways. It is rewriting something in your own words, must change words and sentence structure, and must attribute information to a source. How? Sir, if I change a few words, am I okay with it? I will say no. If you put something into your own word, you need to cite. It is still someone else's idea and requires a proper acknowledgement. So paraphrase practicing, I am giving you an example from the site plagiarism.com. It says, simply put, plagiarism is the use of another's original words or ideas as though they have your own. If you have committed plagiarism, you have violated copyright laws. And examples is quoted, how it is paraphrased. According to the plagiarism.com, say here, the quote, the reference has already been covered. Plagiarism happens anytime you present someone else's work or it was yours. If you don't give credit to a source, it is a violation of the copyright law. So it is the change of the statement, but with the proper quotation. Summarizing. Summarizing means SUM. Shorter your text, use your own words, and use main ideas only. It includes any direct quotes or unique phrase in the quotation marks. Make sure the speaker writer's name is identified. Include page number, source reference, so you can go back and check for accuracy. Can summarize original ideas from one of your source, and use factual information that is not the common knowledge, that is cite to be safe. So what about all the free stuff on the web? It is a very commonly asked question me during my lectures. Sir, can we do the copy paste from the web? No. No means big no. You cannot simply do the copy paste and write your paper, because free means economically free only for you. That means you need not to get purchased, but that doesn't mean you can use it anyway. It is only used for the knowledge, for the not for the intended purpose. If you want to use in your words, graphics or idea, you must give a proper credit to the original authors, and you should give a citation. Example, I'm giving an example. There is an editorial article, plagiarism and unethical inscription. Okay, just see a source the author want to use it in another in a review. He used a paragraph from this. I used to let me read for you. One of the most deterring tasks for journals, reviewers, and editors is plagiarism check. Plagiarized data and text may corrupt scientific medical literature and pass the same information again and again without any innovation or suggestion. This amounts to a new form of scientific misconduct where the theft is of the data or the medical literature under a new name, which amount to the forgery and fiddling of the scientist literature. Now, if the student writes with the proper reference to avoid the plagiarism, he took the whole paragraph from plagiarism to the literature, and he gave the reference that Gupta et al. 2018, an unethical description published in Journal of Regional Anesthesia and Intensive Care. That means he is not doing the plagiarism if he is quoting in the commas and he is giving the proper reference. Now, see another example. There is the wind erosion is a paragraph that the wind erosion problem of the southern Great Plains didn't occur because farmers grew too much wheat and till the crop failure. Now, if the student he writes the same paragraph but in a different language during the year of the normal precipitation, the excessive root system of the wheat plants helps to hold the soil in place and lessen the wind erosion. During the 1930s, however, drought prevented farmers from growing almost any wheat. So this is not an example of plagiarism because the author's words and ideas have been paraphrased, but credit has been correctly given to the original author as a reference. Now, the plagiarism is not limited only to the medical literature. Even the biggest politician of the world use it. For example, Michael Obama in 2008 in the speech he gave, and Barack and I were raised with so many of the same values, that you work hard for what you want in life, that your word is your bond, and you do what you say you are going to do. It was a breaking news on the CNN when the Melania Trump used the same word but in a different language. From a young age, my parent impressed me on the values that you work hard for that you want in life, that your word is your bond, and you do what you say and keep your promise. So the thing the man misses is same, but the word is paraphrased. So there was a similarity, and this was reported on the CNN in 2008. So if next very important question is how much plagiarism is allowed? Should it be allowed? Okay, there is a lack of consensus or clear-cut rules on what percentage of plagiarism is accepted in the manuscript. Going by the convention, usually a text like the research paper review less than 15 is acceptable by the journal, and a similarity of more than 25% is a very high percentage and is straightforward rejected. But every journal has its own guideline. Ideally speaking, it is not accepted at all. Therefore, I would say 0% plagiarism should be in your manuscript. Clinical call for avoiding plagiarism: familiarize yourself with the basics of the research writing. Make note of all the sources you consult during the research process. Cite them properly. Remember that paraphrasing too requires proper citation. Words copied must be identified by quotation mark. If longer than 2 lines, should be indented. And whenever in doubt, use a citation. The author of the previous study may be alive or died. It doesn't matter. If it is not your own idea, you must cite your source. So if you choose to plagiarize, the consequences is disciplinary action may be taken against you. Your articles may be retracted. You may be suspended as an author for the indefinite time. Apology letter from the journal editors as well as from you, and sometimes the monetary compensation you may have to give him. If I remember, few years back there was an incident, as I told you, that a reviewer used to send the articles of the manuscript of the author in a different way after modification. And once the reviewer was caught, he was given the disciplinary action by the medical board, MCI. So by the innovative publication at here, it has a tie-up with the ORI module where the plagiarism is avoided, and they follow the guidelines of the COPE, which are on the suspected plagiarism in submitted manuscript in published paper, and the ICJME, which is the editorial recommendation how and what should be done with the plagiarism work. For detection, they are innovative publication that they are using the cross-reference and Authenticate, which is the plagiarism screening service. The software is used to check submission against millions of the published research papers manuscript for potential plagiarism. And if I suggest you for further reading, you should go to the plagiarism.org, the SSL Library Research Guide, and Citing Source and Avoid Plagiarism from the Duke University Library. These are the standard references where you can get a lot of information about these topics. So in the end, I would like to thank all my listeners and ask me if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. It's so interesting session, and I had seen the chat also here. So lots of attendees endorse you for your nice presentation, both of you. So you have few question, and madam, you also in our question answer box. So I will request you to please sort out as well as many as we can in this session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, I have answered few questions. Basically, there were many questions regarding a paid and unpaid journal. Okay, where to submit, what to prefer, etc. So for all those, I would like to say that mostly good journals, especially of our stream, good reputed journals, they don't ask you for heavy charges. Okay. So some journals claiming, a lot of charges for your article publication. I think you all should go back, check the indexation of the journal. Indexation of the journal is the main thing for, for publishing your research. And most of the having high impact factors, many journals such as oral oncologies and etc., they are free. So it only depends upon the potential of your research article that you should get published, and not by giving money. Okay. One very good question. Miss Manju P, she has asked a question that please tell me how to identify research gaps and give some tips. Okay, so Manju, I would like to say that research gaps or gap in literature is the scope where you have to stand, as I told you. For example, if you are doing the same research what your parent article has quoted, so your research will lack originality. I will give the example of my own thesis topic. Okay, when I was a PG, I did research on dental parameters like bite marks, lip prints, etc. I have done on twins. Okay, so twin population, twin siblings. I had to do a research on their dental parameters. So this was what my parent article had already done. So how did I found my scope? I did it in homozygous twins and non-homozygous twins. That is in identical twins and non-identical twins. So that is how my research was original. So you have to refine the criteria, or you have to, do something what the previous literature studies have not done. So this is, finding a gap for your own. I just hope I have made my point clear. Next is, I think, how to download an article from PubMed. So when you go in PubMed, so there you have an option of free article. Okay, as I told you along the scroll section. So if you click there, free full text, free in PMC, whatever. If you click that article will appear, and then you will have a download option there. Okay, so you can just download it. Knowledge white how to write abstract, I guess. Yes, how to write abstract of an article. So, well, Vishnupriya, thank you for your question. And see, writing an abstract of an article is again a different topic altogether. I'll just try to put a few points there, that it has the abstracts of any type research are of two types. One is narrative one, and other is the systematic abstract. Okay, in systematic abstract you have to write everything like aim, objectives, material, methods, results, conclusion, everything. And in narrative, it is just like what you write for your review papers. And this is for the study paper. Okay, so for study paper, you should write uh, properly in protocol. Like what was the aim of your study, what were the objectives, what were the material used, etc. So I think Nikita ma'am, when we will proceed with our research writing, how to write a paper, a scientific paper, we will discuss more. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh, Next is, yeah, this is also a very good question by an anonymous person. I appreciate. It is a good observation. He have asked me the difference. He or she have asked me the difference between free full text and full text in PubMed. Well, in my presentation now, I purposefully skipped it because it is a bit confusing. Before explaining this, I would like to tell you all that there are two things. There is a PubMed and there is a PMC. Okay, for the database. PMC is PubMed Central, and PubMed is what the PubMed is that we see. Okay, so PMC articles are those articles that are managed by the National Library of Medicine, and what they have done is they have made tie up with various publication houses, and they give funding to those particular articles, and then they get free access to those articles in PMCs. Whereas in PubMed, whatever portal we have opened in PubMed now, we will not get free text for those articles. Okay, there in PubMed you will only get it like abstract of whatever articles are there. No, you will only get that much. You have to open PMC account, and then you will get free articles that are available. Okay.
okay. Okay. There was a question. Thank you, Dr. Ketki. There is a few questions about the peer review and the plagiarism. One was, can we use the online software for plagiarism? Yes, we can use, but the free softwares are not the good quality. They always skip the few words and you get the lesser results than the authenticated purchase softwares which the journals use. There is another question is, can we use the online? There is a question was, okay. Uh, Software for plagiarism, I just told you, plagiarism check, authenticate, and the cross reference are the few softwares which you can use. There was a question, we sent paper after checking plagiarism 15%, but general told you have more than 20%. How to address such problems? These problems generally arise when either you are using a free software, or the journal who is using the software, they have checked your added your references as a part of the plagiarism. So in that case, you can get your plagiarism report from your software or from the net, and you can send it to the publishing house. They can get it rectified. Okay, and there is a one more thing. In case the paper was published without including the co-author, then in that case the paper can be retracted. It comes under the plagiarism because you are not giving the proper credit to the co-author. So you can give a file a complaint with the editor publication house. The editor of the publication house can decide whether paper is to be retracted or the authors can be banned for this type of plagiarism. Okay, there is one more question. Innovative publication all on PubMed. Yes, we are trying very hard, and we will be soon on the PubMed. Are the keywords should be from the abstract from or from the main data? They should be from the main data. And there is, what are the three? Sorry, I didn't get the what are the three most important quality to improve my paper acceptance for publication? The very first thing, it should be properly written. The journal guidelines should be followed. The plagiarism index should be less than 10% actually, or the minimum you can do. And second thing is that all the facts, the primary and secondary objectives are the well explained. Okay. Sir, you said plagiarism up to 15% is acceptable. Is it including reference? No. 15% is without reference. References should not be included in the plagiarism. They are never considered. What is the best software? They are the different software. However, the paid software and the journals use, Authenticator is one of the best one. And how to publish a journal of high impact factor in a quick time. This is a hit and trial method. You always try your best work. You send to the journal. If your thesis or the acceptance or your paper is of good quality, it will be accepted very soon. And I think there may be few questions where Dr. Ketki can answer. Please, ma'am. Hello, Nikita. Hello,
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah,
Kirti. Please.
yeah. Thank you, sir. Uh, there is a question that the session mainly comprises of peer review, literature review, plagiarism, but I would like to get proper direction or guideline for naming authors' name in the title. Can it be explained? So, Sueksha, I think that comes under the referencing part, and there are there are two ways of referencing: Vancouver style and Howard style. So in that, you have to quote author's name based upon like surname should be first, and the author's first letter should be there, and then you have to if more than two authors are there, you have to write et al. I think these are all things that we will cover in the eventual webinars on how to write a paper. I think that would be more correct.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, in chat box also, I had lots of requests for the upcoming topics with the research publication related to the research publication. So I would like to request you all the attendees that we are coming with all details with our upcoming webinars and important topics in this series of cornerstone of scientific publication shortly. Thank you all for your question answer, teacher, sir, Dr. Gupta and Dr. Ketki. Thank you. You
Thank you
had,
for
yeah,
having me.
Thank
you had,
you.
yeah, you had solved a lots of question here. In still, if anyone wants to ask any question, then we just share all the email IDs here, so you can write us at editor.iesrf@gmail.com. We definitely try to reply as much as possible there. Lots of people are asking for feedback form. It is already shared, and after our webinar you can find it on the evaluation link also, so you can go through it. And now I guess we have to bind the session, this session, and initiate the last session, that is thank you for thanks for vote. So I would like to convey my thanks to speakers who took out their time from flashlights on this important topics, and thank you all participants for your presence. We are happy to assist you for any question. If you have, please write us the mail ID which I had already provided. Thank you for all of you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.